The Galactic Council chamber on XYOs. Prime held 7 species under one domed ceiling of transparent alloy, light from the system star filtered through the structure, casting everything in amber. Ambassador Elena Vasquez counted the armed guards positioned around her, 12. All Raikori, all carrying weapons that could disintegrate a human down to the molecular level. Counselor VTH of the Raikori Dominion rose from his elevated platform. His species stood 2 m tall, covered in gray plating that clicked when they moved. His voice carried across the chamber. Without amplification, evolution had gifted his kind with lungs that could shatter stone. Humanity stands condemned. Elena kept her hands visible, resting on the railing before her, palms up. The gesture meant nothing to these aliens, but it kept her grounded. She'd spent 3 years learning their customs, their languages, their tells. VTH's left eye twitched when he lied. It was twitching now. The interstellar quarantine protocols exist for a reason. VTH continued. A holographic display materialized behind him, showing Earth from orbit. Blue-green, beautiful. Your species has violated Article 7 of the Galactic Accord by developing faster than light travel without council authorization. Across the chamber, Ambassador Torlov, the Vaughn Collective, shifted in his seat. The Vaughn resembled walking trees, bark like skin, branches for fingers, eyes that glowed amber in low light. He'd been Elena's only ally in 18 months of negotiations. Now he wouldn't meet her gaze. Authorization, Elena said. Her voice didn't echo. The chamber's acoustics were designed to swallow sound, forcing speakers to project. You mean permission? Permission from species who have had FTL for centuries and used it to carve the galaxy into feeding grounds. Gasps, actually gasps. She'd learned that sound from 3 different throats. VTH's left eye twitched harder. You forget your place. Ambassador. Humanity discovered fire while the Raikori built star bridges. Your entire recorded history is a blink in our archives. You're right. Elena nodded. We learned fast. That's what scares you. The chamber erupted. 7 species, 7 ways of expressing outrage. The Hissics clicked their mandibles. The Thurian hummed at frequencies that rattled Elena's teeth. Only the Voral stood silent. A species of liquid mercury, beings who communicated through light pulses. They watched, always watching. VTH raised his hand. Silence fell. The council has reached its verdict. He drew a scroll from his robes. Actual parchment, a calculated display. Tradition. Humanity is deemed unstable, unpredictable, a threat to galactic stability. Effective immediately. Earth is placed under military containment. All human vessels entering council space will be seized. All human colonies will be evacuated or destroyed. Elena's blood went cold, not fear. Recognition. She'd known this was coming. The only question was how far they'd go. Destroyed, she asked. Containment protocols require sterilization of unauthorized settlements beyond the home world. VTH rolled the scroll closed. You should have stayed in your solar system. Ambassador, you should have remained quiet. She stepped forward. 2 guards raised their weapons. She ignored them. The Raikori Dominion has 14 colonies. The Perseus arm alone, the Vaughn Collective, has 32. Every species in this chamber expanded outward without permission, because that's what life does. She looked at each council member. In turn, humanity built its first FTL. Drive from salvage from a Raikori freighter that crashed on our moon 3,000 years ago. You've been watching us that long, watching, never helping, never contacting. Toril finally looked at her, his amber eyes held something close to shame. We feared what you would become, he said quietly. And now, Alina asked. VTA answered, now we ensure you never become anything at all. The guards moved forward. Alina didn't resist, but before they touched her arms, she spoke one last sentence into the recording. Devices embedded in her collar. Earth knows Earth is watching, and Earth does not forget. The guards dragged her from the chamber. Behind her, the council began debating containment fleet logistics. They never noticed the VOR representative pulsing light patterns to someone beyond the station, someone who would carry Alina's message to the one place the council never thought to look, into the dark, where humanity had been building something terrible. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb hadn't slept in 47 hours. He'd stopped counting after 30. The command deck of the UNS Revenant smelled of recycled air and burnt coffee, the cheap kind that came in bricks from Martian hydroponics. His crew worked in silence, watching the holographic display that showed Earth's solar system under siege. 200 Raikori warships had taken positions beyond the asteroid belt. Blockade, no containment. They'd stopped calling it anything else after the first transmission arrived. All human vessels will be seized. Webb was 63 years old. He joined the United Nations Space Command when humanity still argued about climate accords. He'd watched Earth unite, then fracture, then unite again when the first alien wreckage crashed into the Pacific. He'd overseen the reverse engineering of that Raikori ship piece by piece, year by year. He'd authorized the project that would either save his species or destroy it. Admiral Commander Yuki Tanaka stepped to his side, tablet in hand. Ambassador Vasquez's final transmission cleared decryption. Play it. The recording showed Alina in a holding cell, bruises on her face. Raikori hadn't been gentle, but her eyes burned with something. Webb recognized fury, the useful kind. They're mobilizing the blockade fleet, she said. You have maybe 3 weeks before they start sterilizing our outer colonies. Webb, I know what you're thinking. I know what you built, but the council doesn't just have numbers. They have technology we don't understand. Weapons we can't counter. She paused, looked directly into the camera. But they're arrogant. They've been top of the food chain so long they've forgotten what it feels like to be prey. Whatever you do, do it fast, do it loud, and for God's sake, make sure they see it coming. The recording ended. Yuki spoke first. She's right about the technology gap. Our ships are outclassed in every metric: speed, shields, firepower. Even if we launched everything we have, we're not launching everything. Webb turned toward the viewport beyond the reinforced glass hidden in the shadow of Saturn's rings. Something waited, something that had consumed 30% of Earth's GDP for 15 years, something that had killed 300 engineers in construction accidents, something that the council's sensors couldn't see because they didn't believe it was possible. The last argument, Yuki said, not a question. The same. She touched his arm, a gesture of familiarity that would have cost her career with any other admiral. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter simulations never broke 60%. You know that the spaceful drive could tear The ship apart could tear the solar system apart. The theoretical models. The theoretical models said FTL was impossible until we salvaged that Riori freighter. Webb turned from the viewport. Theoretical models said we couldn't build a fusion reactor until we did. Theoretical models said humanity would destroy itself in nuclear fire until we didn't. He walked to the command chair, ran his hand over the worn leather. This ship had been his home for 8 years. The Revenant wasn't fancy. She was a brawler built for close quarters combat, covered in scars from 3 skirmishes with pirate vessels near the belt, but she was his. Order the fleet to form up at Mars orbit, he said. All ships, battleships, cruisers, the rust buckets. We barely keep flying. I want the Riori to see everything we have. Yuki frowned. That's not enough. They'll laugh at us. That's the point. Webb's voice dropped. While they're laughing, the last argument goes active. We're not winning this with a fleet battle, Commander. We're winning this by making them realize they never understood the game. He pulled up a hologram of the Dreadnought. She was ugly, angular built, without aesthetics in mind, just function and fury. Her hull was covered in sensor dampening materials that made her look like a hole in space, and her main weapon, if you could call folding space a weapon, had never been tested at full power. 60%, Yuki whispered. Better odds than our ancestors had when they crawled out of the primordial soup. Webb hit the shipwide comm. All hands, this is Admiral Webb. For 3,000 years aliens have watched Earth from orbit. They've studied us, cataloged us, decided we were too dangerous to touch, too primitive to talk to. Today we prove them wrong. He cut the channel, turned to Yuki. Give the order, launch the last argument. Counselor VTH stood aboard the Riori flagship, Dominion's pride, watching the human fleet assemble near Mars. 200 ships, most of them looked like they'd been welded together from scrap. A few designs showed genuine innovation. Angular hulls, concentrated weapon ports, drive systems that pulsed with blue light rather than the standard orange of Raikori technology. Pathetic, said Commander Threx VTH's military attaché. The commander's gray plating had been polished to a mirror shine, a sign of high rank among warriors. They have nothing that can penetrate our shields, nothing that can match our speed. This isn't a battle, it's an execution. VTH agreed, but something nagged at him. The Voral had gone silent after the human ambassador's trial. No communications, no trade proposals, just nothing, and their observation post near Jupiter had stopped transmitting 3 days ago. Any activity from their outer planets, he asked. Threx checked his display. Negative. The humans have consolidated their fleet near Mars. Their colony on Titan has gone dark, possibly evacuated. Show me Jupiter. The display shifted. Gas giant storms, moons, nothing unusual, except zoom on the orbital track near Europa. Threx complied. The image sharpened in. There a distortion like heat rising from desert sand, but in space a patch of nothing that sensors couldn't penetrate. That shouldn't exist. Interference 3 suggested. VTH's left eye twitched. Signal the blockade fleet. All ships to battle stations now. The order went out. 200 warships began maneuvering into formation, weapons charged, shields raised. The human fleet continued its slow advance, seemingly unaware of the chaos they'd caused. Then the distortion near Europa open. The last argument emerged from folded space like a blade. Cutting through flesh, she was enormous. Half again as long as the Dominions. Pride, and she moved with an elegance that belied her ugly construction. Her hull shimmered with residual energy from the fold, making her look like she was phasing in and out of reality. "What is that?" Threx whispered. VTH didn't answer. He was already broadcasting on all council frequencies, all ships. "This is Counselor Veth. The human vessel is hostile. Engage immediately. Do not." The transmission cut out as the last argument fired its first shot, but it wasn't a shot, not in any conventional sense. The Dreadnought projected a sphere of shimmering distortion that expanded outward at impossible speed. It touched the nearest Raikori cruiser. The ship didn't explode, didn't break apart. It folded, space bent around the cruiser, compressing it into a volume smaller than an atom. For a moment, a miniature star burned where the ship had been. Then it collapsed. Neutron matter, denser than anything in the natural universe. The remnant fell toward Jupiter's gravity, well too small to see, too massive to ignore. By the ancestors, Threx breath, they didn't just kill them, they broke physics. The last argument moved again. This time it targeted a battleship at the edge of the formation. The distortion field expanded. The battleship didn't collapse into neutron matter. Instead, it simply vanished, folded somewhere else, somewhere that might as well have been another universe. The remaining Raikori ships held formation for exactly 4 seconds. Then the third target, a destroyer, blinked its running lights in the universal signal for surrender. VTH watched his flagship's tactical display as 17 other vessels followed suit. The humans had broken his fleet without firing a single traditional weapon, without losing a single ship, without even seeming to try. Counselor Threx's voice cracked, a sound VTH had never heard from a Raikori warrior. The Dreadnought is changing course. New trajectory. Where Threx's display showed the answer. A straight line from Jupiter to XY's prime, a journey that should take weeks. At maximum speed, the last argument would make it in 6 hours. VTH sat down heavily in his command chair. For the first time in 700 years of Raikori dominance, he understood what fear tasted like. "They're coming," he whispered. "The primitives are coming." Admiral Webb stood on the last argument's command deck as the Dreadnought tore through folded space. Around him, crew members monitored displays that showed reality twisting outside the hull, colors that didn't exist, shapes that hurt to look at. The spacefold drive worked by punching through the membrane between dimensions, a trick that Raikori scientists had declared impossible. Humanity had figured it out in 15 years. "We're approaching the XYO system," reported Lieutenant Myra Patel. Young Officer Webb had personally selected to run navigation. Her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls, exiting fold in 30 seconds. Webb touched her shoulder. "Steady. You've seen what this drive does to ships that exit wrong," she said. The simulations aren't real," he squeezed. "Once then released, trust your training, trust the math, trust that we built this thing to work." The countdown hit 0. Reality tore open. The last argument emerged into normal space 500 km from XYO's prime and found 3 Raikori dreadnoughts waiting. "They knew we were coming," Yuki said from Webb's left. She transferred to the last argument. Before launch, refusing to stay behind. On the Revenant, they must have tracked our trajectory. Webb nodded. The three ships were positioned in a defensive triangle. Around the Council station, weapons. Charged shields at maximum, larger than the last argument, better armed crewed by warriors who'd spent centuries perfecting their craft. Ambassador Vasquez is on that station, Yuki said. If they decide to use her as a hostage. They won't. Webb opened a channel to the Ryukuri fleet. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Nations Space Command. You have exactly 1 minute to surrender your vessels and release Ambassador Elena Vasquez. The response came almost immediately. Ryukuri Commander, his gray plating stree with ceremonial red, the mark of a warrior expecting death. Human, you have violated Council space. You have destroyed Ryukuri vessels without declaration of war. You will stand trial. For Webb cut the channel, turned to his weapons officer, target the lead Dreadnought, full projection. The officer, a grizzled veteran named Stavros, who'd lost an eye to pirate raiders, didn't hesitate. His fingers danced across the controls. Target locked, projection field calibrated. Fire. The last argument projected its distortion sphere, but this time the Ryukuri were ready. The lead Dreadnought activated something, a counter field that pushed back against the folding effect. Space warped, twisted reality. Screamed. Reading energy feedback, Patel called. Out there, they're trying to redirect the fold back at us. Webb had expected this. The Ryukuri weren't stupid. They'd had hours to analyze the last argument's attack pattern. They developed countermeasures, but they'd only seen one pattern. Secondary projection. Webb ordered. Different frequency, different fold. Vector. Stavros's remaining eye widened. Sir, that's never been tested. The dual field effect could know what it could do. Fire anyway. The second distortion sphere erupted from the last argument's secondary emitter. It intersected with the first sphere, creating an interference pattern that neither the Ryukuri counterfield nor the laws of physics knew how to handle. Space folded in two directions at once. The lead Dreadnought didn't collapse or vanish. It was torn apart, not exploded. Torn, every molecule pulled in a different direction by conflicting gravitational forces. The ship simply came apart, scattering debris across 5 million km of space. The second Dreadnought tried to flee. The last argument folded. Space inside its engine core. The ship went dark, drifting. The third Dreadnought's commander broadcast surrender before Webb could issue another order. He opened the channel to the Council station. This is Admiral Webb. I'm coming aboard. Anyone who tries to stop me will learn what happens to the second ship. Silence. Then the station's docking bay doors opened. Webb walked through the Council chamber alone. No guards, no weapons, just him, his dress, uniform, and the memory of every human who died building the last argument. 300 engineers, 12 test pilots, 8 crew members lost in the first fold. Experiments, he carried them with him like stones in his pockets. The 7 Council species watched him approach. The Hissics had retreated to their loves, mandibles clicking in agitation. The Thurian hummed at frequencies that made Webb's teeth ache. The Voro pulsed light patterns that even their own translator couldn't interpret. And Counselor VTH stood at the center of it all, gray plating gleaming under the amber light. You came alone. VTH said. Didn't need an army. Webb stopped 10 meters from the Riari leader. Where's Ambassador Vasquez? Safe unharmed. She's been comfortable. Bring her here now. VTH's left eye twitched, but he nodded to a guard who disappeared through a side door. 2 minutes later, Elena Vasquez walked into the chamber, bruised, tired, but walking. Under her own power, she looked at Webb, raised an eyebrow. You're late, traffic. She laughed, a sound that made several council members flinch. Then she moved to stand beside him, shoulder to shoulder, facing VTH. Together, your ship, VTH said. It shouldn't exist. The technology you've demonstrated isn't yours. Webb projected a hologram from his wrist, not of the last argument of Earth, of humanity's history. You've been watching us for 3,000 years. You think you know what we are, a young species, violent, divided, dangerous. He advanced the hologram, showed wars, plagues, extinction events, showed humanity surviving every single one. You called us primitive, but we built our first FTL drive from your crashed ship. We cracked fusion when you said we'd destroy our planet first. We figured out space folding while you were still debating whether to contact us. He stopped the hologram on an image of the last argument's construction. You didn't quarantine us because we were dangerous. VTH's plating clicked. Then why? Because you were afraid. Webb's voice dropped to something almost gentle. You looked at Earth, at our history, at 10,000 years of war and peace and war again, and you realized something that kept you awake. At night he stepped closer. The guards raised their weapons. He ignored them. You realized that we're not primitive. We're young, and young things grow. Learn, adapt. He pointed at the council members one by one. You've been in space for hundreds of thousands of years. Your technology has barely changed in the last 50,000 because you reached your peak and stopped. He gestured to the hologram now showing the last argument. Spacefold mathematics. We reached our peak 3,000 years ago. Then we found your wrecked ship and we started climbing again. The Voral representative pulsed a pattern that translated into spoken language for the first time in recorded council history. You chose isolation. Elena answered before Webb could. We did. After we reverse engineered your FTL drive, we realized what the galaxy looked like. Hierarchies, slavery, species treated as property. We decided we'd rather be alone than become part of that. And now Torl of the Vorn collective asked. His bark-like skin had gone pale. Now you come with weapons that break reality. Now you demand. I demand nothing. Webb deactivated the hologram. The last argument is one ship. We have 17 more hidden across the galaxy, armed with weapons that make this one look like a firecracker. VTH's twitched. You're lying, am I? Webb smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You've been watching us for 3,000 years. You know we're liars. You know we're manipulators. You know we've killed each other for reasons that would seem insane to any rational species. He stepped closer to VTH, close enough to touch. You also know we've never bluffed about something that mattered. The chamber went silent. Then Torl spoke. What do you want? Elena answered. A new council, no hierarchies, no dominant species. Every civilization gets a vote. Every species gets a voice, and humanity gets a seat at the table. VTH laughed. Impossible. The council has stood for a million years. Then it's time for something new. Webb turned to leave. You Have 72 hours to decide. After that, the last argument goes back to Saturn, and the other 17 ships come out of hiding. He paused at the chamber entrance. Choose wisely. The council chamber became a war zone, not with weapons, with words, with accusations, with centuries of suppressed resentment. Boiling to the surface, VTH demanded the other species rally against humanity. They threaten everything we've built, everything we've achieved. Toril of the Vaughn Collective stood. Slowly, his branch-like fingers extended. Built, achieved. You mean the Rakori Dominion. You mean the slavery, the resource extraction, the species you've driven to extinction for profit. The law serves you. The Voro representative pulsed light patterns that filled the chamber with cold radiance. It has always served you. Council was never a partnership. It was a cage, and humanity just broke the lock. Other species began choosing sides. The Hicks, long oppressed by Rakori trade policies, threw their support behind human negotiation. Thurian, whose home world had been strip-mined by Rakori corporations, followed. Within an hour, only the Rakori and their two client species, the insectoid Crix and the reptilian Sarth, remained loyal to the old order. VTH looked around the chamber and saw his empire crumbling. You fools, he whispered. They'll destroy you, all of you. Humans don't know how to rule. They only know how to break things. Toril shook his head. No, you never understood them. You saw war, violence, chaos. You didn't see what came after. He projected his own hologram, images of Earth, of human cities rising from ruins, of peace, treaties signed after centuries of bloodshed, of art, music, literature, philosophy. They break things, Toril said. Then they build something better every single time. VTH made his choice. He activated a hidden control on his wrist. Across the Zio system, 20 Rakori warships that had remained hidden near the system star powered up their weapons, not conventional weapons, something older, something the Council had banned 10,000 years ago. Singularity bombs. Admiral Webb, VTH's voice echoed through the chamber. You have 60 seconds to surrender your vessel. If you refuse, I will detonate 20 singularity bombs in the XYO system. The resulting gravitational collapse will destroy this station, the human ambassador, your ship, and everyone in this chamber. Webb had stopped at the entrance. He turned. Slowly. You'd kill yourself. I'd kill the threat. VTH's left eye stopped twitching. He'd found his resolve. Humanity cannot be allowed to spread. You are too dangerous, too unpredictable, too human. Elena grabbed Webb's arm. He's serious. The Rakori have stockpiled banned weapons for centuries. I saw the intelligence reports. Webb looked at VTH, then at the other council members, then back at Elena. 17 ships, he said quietly. What? The other 17 dreadnoughts? They're not hidden in the galaxy. He pulled up a holographic display. They're hidden in this system. They've been here for 3 weeks watching, waiting. He tapped a command. 17 distortions tore open space around Zio's prime. 17 last argumentless dreadnoughts emerged from folded reality, their holes shimmering with impossible light. They positioned themselves in a sphere around the council station, around VTH's hidden fleet, around the singularity bombs. Here's the thing about space folding, Webb said conversationally. Once you figure out the math, it's not that hard To build countermeasures, those bombs you've got hidden, they're sitting inside a fold lock right now. If you try to detonate them, the energy will be redirected into folded space. You'll destroy nothing but your own reputation. VTH stared at the holographic display. 20 Rikori warships surrounded by 17 human dreadnoughts, his fleet, his bombs. His last card, all useless. Surrender, Webb said, or I show you what happens when a species that evolved on a death world decides to stop playing. Nice, VTH's plating clicked once, twice. A sound Webb had learned meant resignation. The Rikori Dominion surrenders. 3 months later, Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Starbase Hope, a new station built at the intersection of 3 major trade routes, designed and constructed by human engineers in record time. Below her, the galactic core burned with light. Around her, representatives from 14 species moved through corridors that had been empty a season ago. Admiral Webb joined her at the railing. He looked different. Out of uniform, softer, almost human. You should sleep more, she said. You should eat more. He handed her a ration bar. The vending machines on the station are terrible. I had to bribe a Hicks chef to make something edible. She took the bar, didn't eat it. The treaty signing is in 2 hours. 14 species, equal votes, equal representation. Do you think it'll hold? Webb leaned on the railing, looked out at the stars. The Rikori are already trying to undermine it. 6 are demanding special privileges. The Thurian want reparations for past atrocities. It's a mess. Sounds like Earth. It sounds like politics. He turned to face her. But here's the difference. On Earth, when we built something new, we had to drag everyone along, kicking and screaming. Here we've got leverage. The dreadnoughts. The dreadnoughts, he nodded. 17 of them, positioned at key points throughout Council space, not to dominate, to protect. Any species that tries to reestablish a hierarchy gets a visit from the last argument and her sisters. Elena finally bit into the ration bar. Chewed, swallowed. You knew it would work. I knew it might work. Webb's expression shifted. Something darker. Honest, the simulations never gave us better than 60%. Did you know that? The fold drive, the dual field projection, all of it. We built a civilization saving weapon that had a 40% chance of killing everyone on board. She stopped chewing. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have tried to stop us. He looked at the core again. Because they Council would have found out and laughed. Because sometimes, Elena, you have to risk everything when the alternative is losing everything. She finished the bar, crumpled the wrapper. 60%. 60%. And the other 17 ships, the ones you said were hidden across the galaxy. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. A real smile, not the weaponized version he'd shown the Council. There are no other ships. There never were. The 17 dreadnoughts in the Zio system, that's the entire fleet. Every ship we built, every weapon we had, all in one place. All or nothing. Elena stared at him. Then she started laughing loud, uncontrolled, the kind of laughter that came from 3 months of tension finally breaking. You bluffed, she said. You walked into the Council chamber with 17 ships and made them think you had 34. I made them think we had an army. Webb shrugged. It's what humans do. We look weak until we're strong. We look outnumbered until we're not. We look like we're playing checkers. when we've been playing chess the whole time. She wiped her eyes. The Riori will find out eventually. Probably, but by then the treaty will be signed, the new council will be functioning, other species will have seen what happens when you work with us instead of against us. He pushed off the railing, and if the Riori try to start another war, we'll build 17 more ships, or 70 or 700. He started walking toward the door. Where are you going? Elena asked. To sign a treaty to shake hands with species who wanted us dead 3 months ago, to start the long, slow, impossible process of building a galaxy that doesn't run on fear. He paused at the door. Cunning. Elena looked out at the core one more time, at the light, at the future. Then she followed him. Behind them, on the other side of the station, the last argument hung in space like a promise. Ugly, angular, built by a species that had clawed its way up from mud and fire and blood. 60% odds, 40% chance of annihilation. Humanity had taken those odds. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same.